What's up, everyone? The Polo Boys are back. Grant Cohn, Suneil Gaitonde. Not Gaitonde. I hear some people saying Gaitonde. I'm like, that's not how you pronounce his name. It's Gaitonde. Anyway, we're looking fly. We're going to be focused, at least at the beginning of the show, on this interview that Kyle Shanahan did with Rich Eisen, because Rich got him talking and Kyle reveals things when he talks. Or he says things. I don't know if he reveals things. This time he said flat out, well, what did you tell him? What did you take away from this interview?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good interview. I think that, Kyle Shanahan has this way of making people believe he's a very honest guy and, tells the truth. But I also think he's extremely smart and he's creating narratives. But it comes off as genuine and just like the truth. So the biggest things, I think the takeaways were just the process that they went through as far as the quarterbacks. My biggest takeaways seemed to be that I think picking a rookie was like plan D or E. I think that initially their top plans all revolved around trading for a veteran. And it shows even at the last second with Aaron Rodgers, that was still something that they would, probably take over picking a rookie. But when it came down to the rookies, I think I think Justin Fields was in the storyline. I think that was something they were looking at. But, from that interview, guys like me that thought Justin Fields was an option, it was between Fields and Lance. That wasn't true. It actually was always between, Trey Lance and Mac Jones. So that was the biggest things I took away. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, he basically confirmed the reporting that all the biggest reporters had done. Now, his side of the story is that he always liked Trey Lance, and they always wanted Trey Lance. But I feel like, what was he going to say, man? What was he going to say? Go on Rich Eisen and be like, yeah, I always wanted Mac Jones, and then I just changed my mind a week before. Like, you can't say that. Whoever they took, they were going to be like, that's who we wanted all the time. But it was interesting to have him confirm that really Justin Fields was not considered, which is what I believed. It made sense. And there were a lot of people who were like, no, you're wrong. Justin Fields is the guy. And I felt like that was almost like 49ers QAnon. Like, there was no evidence there. But anyway, that's kind of insignificant moving forward. Who cares?
Right. And I guess the second thing was just talking about Jimmy G was the other second biggest takeaway from the interview is just this complete 180 shift. Like, before Trey Lance was there, every conversation about Jimmy G was pretty indifferent from Kyle Shanahan's perspective, not like highly, giving a lot of compliments to the quarterback. The fan base never really had this sense that Shanahan was 100% behind Jimmy G. Now, all of a sudden, Trey Lance gets drafted 3, and Jimmy G is like the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan ever has this understanding of the offense, as a competitor, likes to compete, all this kind of stuff, which to me is just total BS. Like that.
And he's like so good that he can't be beaten out, right?
Right. Like,
but that's what he's saying. Like, don't even expect a competition. Yeah. Like, he's not even ready to compete, is what he said.
And that to me is just like, if Jimmy G is such a competitor, how come it took till year 5 for you to bring in somebody that could actually compete with him for the starting job, right? Like, if he is going to be pushed by somebody in competition, well, where's that competition been? Every single year you should have brought in somebody that competed, and we would have just had, a better quarterback room. So I'm not really buying that. But, that's what he said during the interview process. To me, it's all the narrative now. Like, now it's about trading Jimmy. So no more, you will not hear anything negative out of Kyle Shanahan's mouth about Jimmy G. Everything is going to be super effusive praise, and it's going to be putting Jimmy G on a pedestal, because the minute they get an offer that sounds good, Jimmy G's out of here.
All right. So, yeah, those are the main takeaways from that press conference. But do you believe Kyle? I mean, you just alluded to it, but do you really think he thinks Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starter next season?
I think that Jimmy G is going to get showcased very heavily in the offseason. Whether that be through OTAs, whether that be through the preseason, I think that it's going to look like Jimmy G is the starter, because I think right now it's all about making Jimmy G, like turning the narrative around Jimmy G to make him look like the guy or a guy that can be the guy for your team. And all because they already have the guy. Like I said, if Jimmy G was such a competitor, why are you bringing in CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins as the only people competing against him? Like, you could have brought in somebody that could be a starter, that people looked at as a starter to compete with this guy and push this guy if you knew that that was something that that drove him. I've never seen Jimmy G win at a quarterback competition.
I was going to say, what competition did he ever win? Ever.
Right? Yeah, no, Tom Brady, he wasn't better than Tom Brady to get into those games. Obviously when you're going against undrafted, guys like Nick Mullins and guys like CJ Beathard who, struggle in the league, like, yeah, you can look great, and I mean, he does win with Shanahan, but I don't see proof that he's this competitive quarterback that's just going to battle through all this adversity and, be the guy. Like, I just think it's all, if Kyle Shanahan had ever said these types of things earlier, maybe I'd believe it. But the fact that it's happening now just makes me think that, okay, now we got to make Jimmy G look good so we could, get the most out of trading for him, kind of thing.
Trey Lance seems much more competitive than Jimmy Garoppolo, athletic, smart, mature, better leader. I think I don't know. I think that the difference when they're on the field together is going to be stark to the media, to the coaches, to the players, and it'll be kind of natural. But there's no reason to say right now that Jimmy's in trouble or he's competing. Like, it'll just happen.
And even if they're not, even if they're even, you got to start Trey, because who are you investing in? Who should get those reps? Who do you want to see actually get better and progress with the future? System? You obviously are investing everything into Trey. Whether Jimmy gets better at the system, you don't really care about, because this is the last year he'll ever be, with the Niners, if he even lasts the whole season. So if they're even, you got to play Trey. Like, even if there's a little, like, the only way is if Jimmy's head over shoulders over better than Trey. And we already don't think that's, even if they just started right now, we don't think there's that much of a gap between them.
Yeah, my prediction is that they're going to just praise Jimmy a ton, and they're going to say he's a starter. He's a starter. There's no competition, but there will be a competition. Trey will get some reps with the first team. They won't make a big deal out of it. So we're just getting him his feet wet, and then all of a sudden the narrative will change a week later, and they'll say, man, Trey is way better than we thought. We weren't even expecting to have a quarterback competition. Now we can't keep him off the field. It'll just be one of these things where they're like, man, we didn't plan for it. We wanted to go slow with them, but wow, he's just blowing that's what I think is going to happen. They're just going to have.
So you think this is more about hyping up Trey, or more about, because I think
it's not going to be like, hey, Jimmy sucks. Like, Jimmy's having a bad camp. They're going to be like, hey, Jimmy's doing great. Jimmy really responded. It's just that this guy Trey is even better than we expected. That's what I think is going to happen, because they're going to want to elevate Trey without dumping on Jimmy. Like you said, they want to trade him, and they can create the narrative that both are killing it in camp and that Trey is just special. That's what they're going to do, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, if a competing team's quarterback goes down in camp or is injured or something like that, Jimmy G is going to be the best option available for any other team. So I think that's why now you're seeing a narrative shift with Kyle Shanahan. Like, no, Jimmy G knows our offense. He's the best quarterback we have. And then, try to get, second or third round pick out of it. Yeah.
Translation, send me a second round pick. MGM Production says, did you hear Kyle say that his dad watches individual practice drills and he praised Chris Kosarik's drills? Thoughts? Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah.
His dad is chilling in Colorado, and he gets all the practice tape, like Google Drive to him. I mean, it's just uploaded in the cloud. He gets to look at it. I wish I got that kind of access. That's pretty cool.
I mean, if your dad is the football genius that Shanahan's dad is, why wouldn't you want his input? I mean, look at you. You're a journalist genius, and you get input from your dad all the time. So I think that's only, I think that's only normal and probably the right thing to do.
Absolutely. It's just interesting that fans don't quite understand Mike Shanahan's involvement. And when asked about it, Kyle Shanahan tends to downplay it. But that's Mike Shanahan. That's the head coach's dad. Yeah, right. He's kind of involved. It doesn't matter if he's not on the team. Does this year's draft reveal what the 49ers offense will look like next season? Because, I mean, I think people are thinking that there's going to be if not maybe a whole shift in what the offense is going to look with Trey Lance, but at least an evolution because he's so much different than Jimmy Garoppolo.
So the so much different, I think, is blown out of proportion. And what I mean by that is obviously Trey Lance has a mobility advantage.
And an arm strength advantage.
Yeah, and an arm strength advantage. However, when you look at what Jimmy G is good at and what Trey is good at when it comes to throwing the football, they're pretty similar in the fact that their accuracy is within a certain range. And then after it goes to a point where they're not very accurate. Like Jimmy G is not very accurate down the field. Neither is Trey Lance. He's not very accurate down the field. So when we look at the draft, obviously, I think this was something both you and I talked a lot about coming up into the draft is like people are downplaying how bad the rush game was, right? They had dropped from one of the top number 2 in the league to 15th in the league, right? So
that was a great call. You were on that the whole way. They didn't end up with Najee, but they ended up with a guy who was almost as successful last year.
Yeah, and my whole point was that they're going to need to put assets into that. Like, I think the fans were just like, most fans are just like, Mostert and Wilson, we're set at running back. And I was like, nah, that's not the case at all. Any top rushing game needs guys that are drafted in the top 3 rounds. And that's just over the history of the NFL, 99% of rush games have somebody that invested a first, second, or third round pick. But whether you start Trey, whether you start Jimmy, you got to realize that down the field is still not going to be opened up. Like Jimmy is very inaccurate down the field. Trey is inaccurate down the field right now, but obviously he's young enough to where you hope that's going to be better. But to help them out the most, you're going to need a really solid rushing game. And I think that's where Shanahan bases his offense around anyways. They're going to run more than they're going to pass. So clearly having these 2 offensive linemen who are much bigger and, going to play in the offensive line in the run blocking scheme, and then bringing in 2 running backs that are younger, stronger, healthier, I think it shows that they're going to be a run first team. And even in 2019,
second team too.
It runs first, runs second. Yeah. And even in 2019, where Jimmy G had his best season, he was still throwing less than 30 passes, attempting less than 30 passes a game. I mean, we all know in the NFC Championship game against Green Bay, he only attempted 8 passes. That's so their success comes from being first run dominant and then passing it. And whether it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance, they're not going to throw the ball 45 times. They're going to be throwing less than 30 times. So you got to give the handoffs to somebody else. And obviously Mostert and Wilson Jr. couldn't stay healthy. So Trey Sermon, I believe, is going to get, a bulk of the carries, around 20 to 25 carries a game. And then you'll see the other running backs get about, 8 to 10 a game. And that's going to be the offense.
I think they're going to throw less than they did in 2019. If Trey Lance is a starter, and I think he's going to be the starter at some point, maybe not week 1. I think he'll get 8 to 10 carries a game. Raheem Mostert will get 8 to 10 carries a game. Jeff Wilson Jr. will get at least 5. Deebo Samuel will get at least 5. Trey Sermon will get 10 plus. That's like 35 carries to go around. And what's cool is when they do pass, it's not going to be like they'll have their screen game and they'll have the little slants and that stuff is still going to be there, but they're also going to have a lot of play action shot plays with Trey Lance booting out of the pocket and throwing on the run. And it's going to be a different element. I mean, his accuracy is a work in progress, but he has a freaking cannon and he's pretty natural while throwing on the run. I think we're going to see some big play action plays that we haven't seen from this offense that we saw more in like Atlanta.
Yeah, and his mobility is going to open up the back end of the defense as well, because they're going to have to spy him where they didn't have to spy, Jimmy G. So it's going to take another defender out of the secondary that is going to leave more openings for Trey to be able to throw to, and especially with Shanahan being the genius that he is and scheming, he's going to be able to take advantage of there not being a double team on any of his guys and any of his receiving options. So, and I think it's pretty interesting. Like if we look at overall the draft, I think there's 2 things that you can really take away. Is one, they obviously put a lot of emphasis on the run game. And the second thing they put emphasis on is experience. Because other than Trey Lance and
Senior Bowl
and the safety out of USC,
Hufanga,
yeah, who looks like he's going to be a solid player. Everybody else they drafted have played over 30 games in college,
and I think went to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean they've all like played 2-3 years in college and played the whole season. So none of them had injury history. None of them really were injured where they couldn't play. And all of them have a lot of experience.
Well, except for Ambry Thomas, who opted out last year.
But even in his opt-out, he still played over 30 games in his 3 years that he did play. So like that to me shows that they're looking for guys with experience that could come in and be contributors day one. And they were looking for people that can show that they could stay healthy, which obviously is a stark difference from the beginning of their regime when they were just taking chances on people.
Well, what happened is the pandemic hit. It was really hard to scout this year. There was no combine. It was probably the toughest scouting process ever. And so teams were conservative. Let's take guys with a lot of tape. Let's take guys that graduated. I don't think there was one player drafted from a historically black college. I'm sure Steve McNair went to one. I mean, those are small schools, and sometimes it's tough to scout them. But if you do your due diligence, a lot of times there's 1 or 2 or 3 every year, and they end up being good. And this year there were none, and I think that kind of shows like teams weren't really going out on a limb this year. It's like we need to see 3 years of you at Michigan. Right. Otherwise, I mean, we didn't see it at the combine. It's tough.
Yeah. That could be true. True. I think that definitely plays a role. But, I'm glad that they did it because obviously health has been one of the biggest Achilles heels, if not the biggest Achilles heel for the Niners. So to take guys with very little injury history, I think is a big upgrade.
Is Kaepernick a fair pro comp for Lance? Based off size and athleticism, also, how do I call into the Cohn phone? Oh, I just drop a link and you click on it. But that's we do that on the weekend. Good, but this is a really good question. I think we should make this a topic. Is Kaepernick a pro comp for Lance? Well, let's do it this way. Similarities and differences. Let's start with the similarities between Lance and Kaepernick because I think there are a lot.
I think definitely their mobility is going to be the biggest, their biggest comp
carryover.
Yeah, they run a lot as a quarterback.
Their frame is similar, 6'4", 230.
Frame is similar. They definitely like running up the middle too. I think like that's I saw a lot of just the quarterback like draws kind of plays that from shotgun. Yes. I think Cap did that a lot as well.
Big time arm strength,
and then accuracy being
super smart. Kaepernick too. Kaepernick
I didn't know that
smart.
Much about in the intelligence of Kaepernick as far
Kaepernick had a high one league scores. He was in all AP classes. He had 4.0 in college. Kaepernick was very smart. Retention off the charts for a quarterback. Lance the same way. I think there are a lot of comparisons, and then the accuracy being shaky being the last comparison. But then I think where the differences are is their arm talent. Like Kaepernick, he had that baseball throwing motion that was all fastballs, and he never had any touch, and he didn't really have an accurate downfield ball either. I think Lance just has, I don't know, more arm slots, like better arm talent, I guess.
And obviously Kaepernick is coming from an offense that is very similar, or at least has components of Shanahan's offense in it, like playing under center, running a huddle, like the play action, passing, things like that. I think you're going to be, easier transition for Trey Lance to go into Shanahan's offense than if Kaepernick ever had to do it. But yeah, I mean, I think it could be a comp. I want to believe, but I do believe Trey Lance has a higher ceiling.
I think he'd be better. Yeah, and I think it's with the arm talent. Yeah.
And it looks
Kaepernick
like
didn't turn the ball over very much either. He was a good decision maker.
Yeah,
and he could run the whole under center offense. He could run the pistol offense, which is what people are expecting from Lance. So there are similarities.
And I think that Trey Lance just wants to be great, which I really like about players. That's why I love Najee, and that's why I think Trey Lance just seems to want to be the best, and that's great. You know,
He
that's
seems
what
to
we
want to be a
want.
great quarterback. You always hear about him like studying film in his off time and
Mhm.
all that stuff. Like Kaepernick never really did that. He was always wanted to be a great athlete. He was very into how he looked and his physique and stuff until he lost 20 pounds. But I just don't. I think part of the reason that he didn't get better as the time went on in the NFL is because he didn't have that like obsession to improve that part of the quarterbacking
Right.
game. I mean, he'd be the first one at practice and the first one at the facility, but he'd be doing wind sprints and stuff. It's like,
Right.
that's great, man. You're still fast. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kaepernick probably was more an athlete playing quarterback, where Trey Lance is a quarterback that's very athletic. And so that's where, and what I mean by just like mentally a quarterback that was good at quarterback, but also has the ability to be a solid athlete. So kind of like Russell Wilson, I would say.
Kaepernick had a lot of success early on. He didn't have the success long term. Let's see if Lance can. I think he can, but we'll see. All right, let's talk Niners' biggest strength. What was it before the draft and what is it now?
So I thought going into the draft, the unit that they didn't really need to add to was going to be the defensive line. I think they did a great job. You know, obviously they have a lot of high round picks already invested in the defensive line with Armstead, with Bosa, with Kinlaw. And then I think they found a lot of great steals in free agency. Obviously a lot of them are 1-year deals, but that line is deep. I think that line is going to have a lot of success at getting at quarterbacks and stopping the run. They have a good, combination of speed, strength, and obviously we have the greatest defensive line coach in the league right now. So I think that's going to be the strength. That was the strength that I didn't think they really needed to upgrade through the draft too much.
Yeah, I agree. D-line is the strength of this team. They've put so many resources into it, even before Shanahan and his dad got here. I mean, back Armstead 2 years before then, and then Buckner that they flipped and turned into Kinlaw. If Kinlaw has a big year next year, I mean, think about what this defensive line could be. Really, I mean, Samson Ebukam's a hell of a player. The D-line is definitely the strength of this team, and then after that is linebacker. That front seven is vicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
So do you feel like the strength has changed? I don't think it's changed. I mean, they added a couple of running backs. Running back is now a strength.
I think that run game is going to be nasty.
I mean, I'm not saying the offensive line is great yet. It's got more potential than it had a week ago, but that running back room is nice.
I am a lot higher on the O-line than you are. I think that
it's better. It's got potential.
Mac is going to play a big time role. I think
he's crucial. He's crucial.
Yeah, and I even think that, everybody feels more comfortable, I think, in the offense now. Like, the left tackle got paid, so he's going to not necessarily need to be worrying about, like, where he's going to be playing next year and all that kind of stuff. I think that'll play a role, and he could just now buckle down, focus, and know this is his squad and, go out there and play hard. I think Banks is going to start right away and be a solid addition. And I think, McGlinchey has a friend on the team now, come from college. And so I think that's going to help him, play a lot better too. And obviously who you're blocking for makes a big difference as well. And when you're blocking for guys like, the Trey brothers, Trey Area in the backfield with Lance and Sermon, I think it's going to be, fun.
It's clear that to me that the position groups that improved the most in the draft for the Niners are O-line and running back. I like the depth they got at the defensive backfield. I need to see those players in person before I feel like they're more than just depth. The offensive linemen they got, I feel like are both starting caliber. Both of them. I like Jalen Moore too. And then both running backs, who's to say the 6th round pick who's 218 and runs a 4.3 won't be a starting caliber dude in this offense with this running? I mean, he's got as much potential, if not more, than Trey Sermon. So, yeah, that's very encouraging. Dude says, will the Niners target a cornerback in free agency? Well, I guess there's round 2 of free agency coming up, and they just drafted 2. I don't think they will. Maybe next year, but I think they're kind of set at that position right now.
Yeah, I think if anything, they might bring in another linebacker.
Sure. They could. Yeah. They absolutely could. All right, let's talk biggest weakness, though. Same question, like what was it before the draft started and what is it now?
So I thought that their biggest weakness was going to be cornerback. just because they only had two. And both, I think the show we did right before the draft, both of us kind of agreed that they're going to have to take at least two corners this year and maybe even a safety, and they ended up taking two corners and a safety.
And a safety, yeah.
I gotta say, man, our draft prediction for the first 3 rounds is kind of funny because I thought they were gonna pick quarterback, cornerback, running back. You thought quarterback, lineman,
cornerback, lineman, yeah.
And then and they ended up picking.
They did it, and they just created this extra pick by trading down and then trading back up again.
So
but basically, they did what we wanted.
We both
I agree. I thought it was even between corner and interior offensive line.
Yeah,
even. And they doubled up on both. They got 2 guards and 2 corners. Yeah. So now I don't even look at corner as a flat out weakness or offensive line. I mean, now what would you say the biggest weaknesses on the team are?
I mean, if anything, I really think they're strong as far as all across the board. But I'd say if I'm nitpicking a weakness, I would say linebacker depth, because
we can do better than that. I think safety is an issue. I like Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt, but Tartt can't stay on the field. We want to be tough on Raheem Mostert and Jimmy Garoppolo. We got to be consistent. And then Jimmy Ward has stayed on the field the last 2 years, but that's always an iffy proposition. And then the top backup that they brought in this year, Talanoa Hufanga, who's a baller, has issues staying on the field as well. So that is just one area of concern. That's the only one, though. And it's a pretty strong area when healthy.
I think that their depth there is actually really good. I mean, they brought in
more
a lot. Yeah. They brought in 2, solid, backups that have had starter experience. So I'm not too low on the safeties. I think they'll be fine there. If anything, like maybe special teams, I don't know what they're gonna do there. Like
that's a good point. That's a really good point. That's really
because I think that we can't.
They never address it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Shanahan's still gonna just be like, just do like the safe, and just not ever let the guy punting or the receiving be able to do a run back. Like, I think we need that aspect in the game. And then also like our kicker, he was already showing weakness in his leg. I think that might be an issue. Yeah, he's a year older. Like, I don't know about the special teams. I think would probably be the biggest weakness in my eyes.
Good answer. Mango Slug says, what will Lance's stats be if he starts this season?
I don't think you're going to see him throw a lot. I think it's still going to be, kind of throwing maybe between 20 to 25 times a game, probably around 60% completion. Probably have like 20 touchdowns, 20 touchdowns, five interceptions, something around there. I don't expect him to have like Patrick Mahomes numbers because I expect them to be running. I think he'll have a lot of rushing yards as a quarterback.
He'll probably have like 2,500 passing yards, 2,500 passing yards, maybe 300 attempts. That's it. But yeah, 20 touchdowns, maybe 5 picks, and then rushing, he should have some serious numbers. If he's the starter all season, I mean, he could run for 700 yards, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns. Why would you not let him run 7-8 times a game? He's going to average 6 yards a carry. Watch.
Yeah, and that's just probably scripted runs. Obviously, just from scrambling, he's going to get a bunch of yards too. So
I feel like every pass for him that's early on is going to be a run pass option. Like a lot of stuff where he's booting out, and if the throw isn't there, run. He's always going to have the option to run because that's a really good option. It's a fabulous option. I think he's going to run for a whole lot of yards.
And I mean, this is going to be the most talented team that Shanahan has been able to devise an offense for. And what I mean by that, obviously Atlanta Falcons had, probably better receivers, but as far as a quarterback that can move and throw on the run, obviously that's going to bring in a whole dynamic that Kyle Shanahan hasn't been able to utilize in, quite some years. So
and we're saying this guy could have like 30 touchdowns combined, air and ground. So that would put him in the rookie of the year conversation if we're not being too ambitious. One more comment real quick. Andrew says, what does this draft really say about Kyle's ego?
I mean, I've always been a big proponent of Kyle and that his ego is something that is a false narrative. I've seen over the last 5 drafts or ever since 2017 that each year they've gotten better and better at drafting, and I think that this draft is a culmination of just the growth of the team. Now we're not picking necessarily because we have these dire holes. We're picking solid players with strong backgrounds that fit our system, that are going to come in and be contributors in day one. And I think once you've gotten to that level as a team, that's an extremely great place to be. And I'm excited about it. I'm really happy with what the team has done this whole offseason, to be honest.
Sounds good. All right, let's move on. Final topic. And then I got to address some roster moves the Niners made. Rookie, we're most excited to see. Which rookie are you most excited to watch this season?
I mean, obviously Trey Lance is going to be the pick, so I'm going to say other than Trey Lance, Ambry.
I was going to say the same thing, man.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
I like him. I think he has that swagger that is different. I mean, he's a cornerback that is a ball disruptor. He's a playmaker. It seems like he enjoys man-on-man, bump and run, like all that kind of stuff. It seems like he's a ball hawk. And I think that's really fun to watch because, outside of, Richard Sherman, we really haven't had, Verrett, I think, can be that as well. But this is a guy who, can get up there, goes after the ball, wants to get, interceptions and stuff like that. I think that's going to be fun to watch. And I'd love to see him, like him and Verrett on either side, I think could be a really, really solid cornerback group.
Yeah, he seems like he has major potential. He's 6 feet tall. He runs a 4.3. He intercepted passes. He returns kicks. He seems like he's a really good – they use him on offense. He seems like he's a really good athlete. And he's the only player the Niners drafted other than Trey Lance who plays a premium position. Mm-hmm. Cornerback. If he's good, he's like the second most important pick in this draft. He's more important than Aaron Banks. He's more important than Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon's great, but a corner who can live up to the athletic profile this guy has would be huge. And they wouldn't have to draft a corner. Next year, he'd be a replacement for Jason Verrett. We'll find out. Corners is something you can see pretty quick. If he can cover Brandon Ayuk man-to-man in practice, things are going to look good for him. I'm really eager to see what he looks like.
And he likes to tackle. And I think when our defense is at our best, our cornerbacks are, getting up there and tackling, the outside, the screens and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be exciting to watch.
It's always fun to watch running backs do their thing, and it's fun to appreciate offensive linemen if you can get the coach's tape and get the end zone angle and put it in slow motion. But corners are so important. That's my favorite position. The Niners never draft them early. They took this guy with the 102nd pick, which is too late, really, to get a good one. But he's got a chance. He's got a chance. So I'm eager to see what he's got. CJ Crucial says Hufanga at linebacker could be safer and better for him since most of his highlights are in the box anyway. Yeah, but he's 200 pounds, man. That'd be a light linebacker. But maybe puts on a little weight, and I don't know. It seems to play. If you're gonna play safety on the Niners, you have to be able to play. You have to be able to play single high. Tart does it all the time because freaking Ward is down in the slot covering man-to-man. So if Hufanga doesn't have that kind of speed, he might have to be – like that's the reason they don't play Harris as safety anymore. He can't do that stuff.
And I'm a little worried about his injury history because if he was getting injured with college collisions, the same way, I think he just knows how to play one way, which is exciting to watch. But in the NFL, I just see him as somebody who's oft injured.
Noah says, hold on. I'll come back to you, Noah. Sorry. There was one before that. The coach dropping dub. Thanks, coach. Says, thanks to Kyle, Demeco has gone under the radar in a sense. What's the expectations for our defense this year? In my opinion, best defense is a great running game. I think complementary football plays a huge role in our success moving forward. That seems to be the biggest help that Kyle Shanahan gave Demeco in the draft. He didn't give him any players in the top 100, but he gave him a run game that should keep his unit fresh.
Yeah, but in Kyle Shanahan's defense, there's probably not a defensive rookie that they could have taken with the picks that they had that's going to even make the starting lineup for the Niners defense. So take players that can actually get a chance to play early in the draft. I think Demeco Ryans has a lot to work with. We've talked about this before. I really think that you're going to see a very seamless transition, and people are going to be pleasantly surprised with how good of a coach Demeco is going to be. And this defense is going to still be, a top 5 defense, because not only is, he somebody who's played defense at a high level and has been coaching for a while, already has the guys' respect, but he's also getting back, guys like Bosa, and gonna have that like rush attack that was lacking maybe last year as far as sacks production. So I think it's gonna be fine.
The one thing they could have done differently to help Demeco with players this year is instead of trading down from 43 to 48 to take Banks, they could have stayed at 43 and taken Kelvin Joseph, who is a cornerback that Eric Crocker came on my show and said he's got as much potential as anyone. He's going to the Cowboys. They've had success drafting cornerbacks. But, I mean, it's not just do you take Banks or do you take Kelvin Joseph? The equation ended up being Banks and Sermon or Kelvin Joseph. So I understand where the Niners were coming from, but that would have been one, and I'm sure Demeco would have been like, okay, all right, that's fine. We'll give Ambry Thomas a shot, but I'm new here. I'm not going to make too many.
I wonder if Aaron Banks and Asante Samuel were there. I wonder who they would have picked, because Asante Samuel Jr. was picked right before Banks was. So I wonder if that was kind of what they were doing. But They said Banks was the pick all the time, but they say that about every pick.
They say it about everybody, yeah. Noah says, will Kyle push Lance to get down and avoid contact, or let him lower the shoulder like he did in college? Also seems like Kyle's going to stress pocket passer. Yeah, Kyle wants him to learn how to be an actual quarterback, and he will teach him that, but they're also going to use his legs early on while he's learning. And yeah, I think they're going to teach him to slide. Why would you not teach dude to slide?
Sure. Yeah, I think Trey Lance has, the problem with Jimmy is Jimmy didn't know how to stay healthy because of the way he played. I didn't see that in Trey Lance. He's bigger, stronger, but he also goes down. When he's getting sacked, he's not trying to run away. If he knows he's going to go down, he just takes it and goes down. He's not trying to do too much, I would say. Which usually when
he throws the ball away, he checks it down.
Yeah, checks it down, and I think he's actually pretty nimble in the pocket from what I've seen. So, he's going to be good. I think he runs a lot more in college. I don't know.
They needed him to. They needed him to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be not running as much in Shanahan's offense, but yeah, I mean, they're going to try to keep him healthy as much as possible for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. No, I appreciate it. All right, man. I think that's Polo Boys for today. I appreciate it. Had the day off today, man. We'll see if we can fit one in next week, man.
For sure, man.
We'll see if we can fit in a round table in maybe tomorrow night if you're around.
Yeah, I'll be around, man.
All right, man. Thanks, everyone. I'll be back later today with Jack doing a little film breakdown of Trey Sermon. Oh, you're lucky, Will. You are lucky, Will. I almost cut it off. Will says our defense's prime weakness has been DBs and stopping mobile quarterbacks. That's true. After early free agency and draft, I still feel we are weak in both areas. Thoughts? Hey, man, they waited a long time to get these DBs. All of them have potential, but there's a reason they were all day 3 picks. So we're gonna have to see on that. I'm skeptical. And then stopping mobile quarterbacks, they do have a lot of speed on their defense. Let's see if Demeco has a plan for that.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the linemen we have now are a lot quicker as well, so they're going to be able to keep. The problem with mobile quarterbacks is they were always able to break containment.
Thank you.
As long as we could keep them contained with our speed on the outside, it's going to help.
As long as Armstead isn't playing D-end, that was the problem, man. He couldn't sack the quarterback or keep contained at the end. He was a problem as a pass rusher out there. But you move him inside and put Ebukam out there. Ebukam is unreal at keeping at contained, and he's had success playing against and experience playing against Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and I'll take Fred Warner against any of these quarterbacks as far as if they're just down the middle and it's one-on-one. I think
also Dre Greenlaw's even faster. Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, I really feel like one of the main reasons they brought in Ebukam, obviously he has potential as a pass rusher, but what he does as a spy, how he keeps these guys in the pocket and how he runs them down. He's hella fast. He runs a 4.5. I think he's faster than Kendrick Bourne, went to the same school, 50 pounds heavier. He's an amazing athlete. Will, thank you for the donation. Suneil Gaitonde. I can't stand people getting that wrong. Get it right.
Appreciate you, Grant.